Welcome back to another episode of South Bay Sports Radio. Today I'm joined by longtime Serra girls basketball coach Mckinsey Hadley. Coach, thank you for joining me.
My absolute pleasure. Thank you for having me. Thank you for extending the invite. Very excited to have a chance to share this platform with you. So let's go.
Let's go. All right. Take me back. Let's hear about your earliest basketball memories.
Well, for me, basketball was something that I absolutely hated. Uh, I think my father wanted to live vicariously through me, and basketball was arduous to say the least. I remember the first lie I told was when my father, at 6 years, well, I was six, my father told me to go down to the local park and to find out when the basketball league started. And my father had been prepping me and getting me ready to play basketball. So I go down to the park and I found out that the league was starting in a week or so. And I went home and told my father the basketball league was canceled. I was just not ready for all of the pressure that he was putting on me, and I needed a little more time. It didn't take him long to go down and figure out that I was being dishonest about that, and he signed me up for the league at a small park called Vineyard Park, which is pretty close to Dorsey High School. There, I met a gentleman named Chris Butler, who, in addition to being the freshman and JV basketball coach at Dorsey, but also was the Pee Wee basketball coach at the park. And that was my first memory, really, of basketball. And I remember just some of the friendships and some of the teachings that happened even at that infant level, things that I bring with me to this day and friends that I have with me even as to now. So it's my first memory.
You attend both Serra and Laces for high school, graduating from Laces in 1992. How would you
Unicorn!
describe how would you describe your prep career as a student athlete?
Comprehensive would be a word that we use. Uh, Started off at Laces, and at that time, Laces um, started off at, I believe, fourth grade. And so, started early there. I actually started Laces in the eighth, but it gave me an opportunity to play with some of the high school students at break and at lunchtime to kind of become comfortable. At that time, I was playing for a club team called Caney Bulls, and Caney Bulls are one of the staple AAU and development programs in Los Angeles. Coach Tani was my coach. Phenomenal coach, phenomenal motivator, phenomenal man. Um, Most of the things he did were at no cost, and any program to this day that's worth its salt knows about Caney Bulls because his coaching tree and his lineage is just so pronounced. But I was there playing there. We were a high level club team. I brought that back to Laces and was able to play with some of the guys there. Really enjoyed the friendships once again and the camaraderie. Um, did not play. Um, I did play my freshman year now that I think about it. And then in the offseason would play for Caney Bulls. At that point in time, a lot of the guys on my Bulls team decided to come to Serra High School. And as we kind of collaborated in the off season, I decided to make that move. So ninth and 10th grade at Laces, had a great time. Went on to Serra my 11th grade year and definitely enjoyed the step up in level and competition. We played some great games against some great uh, legends in the South Bay. Definitely was proud of my time at Serra, but unfortunately, coming from approximately 15 miles away, having to catch the bus every day was difficult. And so I decided to go back to Laces to finish my high school career. Um, my final year, I was coached by Leonard Johnson, who's also been around high school basketball for a long time and just helped to put a great finish to my high school career. I learned so much from Coach DeJuan Hurt in my 1 year at Serra High School, and a lot of other coaches along the way. But one thing I can tell you that was pretty consistent in my time at both schools was a high level of character development, a high level of competitive edge, and a high demand for giving your 100%. And I think that's helped to shape me into the person that I am today, and definitely the coach that I am today. It's just some of those inputs from those people uh, from my prep career. From there, I went on to Morehouse College, and I went there for about a week. Uh, there were some problems there. Ended up coming home and went to USC straight back from there. Um, During that time, I continued to coach. Um, I was asked at 16 if I wanted to coach a 12 and under team in the same program that I was actually playing in, which were the Caney Bulls. And so I continued to coach all the way through that time. Definitely found a lot of joy. And I honestly think that coaching AAU youth basketball derailed my basketball career. I honestly think that. I fell so much in love with the coaching aspect that it kind of took over my mindset in terms of playing. So time that I could devote to practice, working out, was time that I was giving to picking up kids and mentoring young kids. Um, so that's kind of how that happened. And so I remember being a student at SC, and I was given an opportunity to uh, try to walk on to the basketball program. And I literally decided to forego that opportunity because coaching was where my heart was at that point in time. So coaching's been in my blood for a while.
What do you remember about that first year of coaching starting at age 16?
So what I remember is that I had a license and I was picking up 12-year-old boys who were uh, still in need of being fed and uh, just the immaturity of those kids as I was driving them to local games. Um, I remember some of the conversations that I was not far removed from, being 16 and 17 myself, and they're 12 years old. Um, I remember coaching my brother, who's 4 years younger than me, and just trying to balance being a big brother versus being a coach and how to turn that on and off. Um, but I remember the successes. I remember just the ability to impart the little bit of wisdom that I had at that age to people who had even less. The conversations I think were most meaningful over everything. It wasn't about the games won or lost. It was about how we dealt with the tears. It was about how we dealt with the nervousness, how we were able to put in perspective life, how we were able to prioritize academics, and just being a good person. And so those are some of the things that really mattered to me. And those are my greatest memories, seeing those young men or young boys become young men, have their own high school careers, and then later become fathers who somehow they find me even to this day and say, "Hey, coach, thank you." Or in my brother's case, "Hey, big brother, thank you. I appreciate you."
You take over the girls basketball program at Serra in 2007. What were some of your short-term goals when you took that job?
Well, fortunately for me, I was very naive. I had come from a program before that at Laces. I began coaching at Laces at 22 with Coach Ernest Baskerville, and we coached that team. I was there for about 8 years, and I remember the growth trajectory there. How we were a team that everybody just came to our school and pretty much picked our players. Once a young man would become uh, competitive, um, bigger schools would come and just pluck our players. So transitioning to Serra, I had already run a youth girls basketball program called Fast Break, and we were a small local team. Um, and at that time, or before I even came to Serra, I had stirred most of our young ladies to Serra High School because I was teaching at Maria Regina. So I was teaching at Maria Regina, coaching at Laces, coaching the club team. Um, and then most of my young ladies in my club team who could make it, I wanted them to come to Serra. It was a place that I was familiar with as a student, still had great ties, still had a great relationship with Coach Hurt. And it also was close enough to Maria Regina that, I could get to games. I could be there to emotionally support the young ladies through that journey. So the year before, which was 2006, Coach Ray Bowden became sick. He became ill, and he asked me if I would be willing to come over and help. And so I came over to help. That year we went 4-13, I believe. And a lot of the young ladies from my club team were freshmen and sophomore. I had sophomores. I had one young lady who was a senior, Jessica McConico, who's one of my coaches now. But I remember thinking about how much potential the team had. And so when we get to 2007, and I'm now the head coach of the program, what I brought to the program was a high level of expectation. I knew that we had already gone through the growth trajectory because we were playing club together. And I brought a high level of expectation. What I didn't know was that there was teams like Bishop Amat and Bishop Montgomery out there waiting on us, and that we had been this little bitty fish in this relatively large pond for a while. And so when I say that I brought naivety to the situation, I didn't know that we were supposed to be losing to these teams. I didn't know that these teams were circling these dates on their schedules as automatic wins. So I had my high expectations met with the reality that we still had a long way to go and that there were some much bigger fish in the pond. But we had a great season that year for our standards. I think we went 14-13 first year. I think we lost in the first round of playoffs. I'm not sure against who. And that definitely kind of built the excitement for the years to come. I also remember that year that there were other young ladies who decided to come over to the school. Um, and just unbeknownst to me, that we were building a good reputation in Los Angeles basketball as being a developmental program in terms of the AAU side, and that our coaches would work with families to help their kids to become the best that they could be. And so we got a couple of transfers in that year, and we ended up making some pretty significant runs by the time we get into year two and year three.
It's about your mentors, and one that you mentioned is your former coach at Serra, Dwan Hurt, who passed away in November 2016. What were some things you learned from Coach that you still implement in your program today?
Coach Hurt is a legend in the South Bay. To us at Serra High School, he's one of the pillars of our school. He definitely bridged the gap between the uh, all boys to the co-ed age. He also bridged the gap between when Serra was predominantly white to when it became um, largely African American. And so really he stands. And I like to think that, from heaven, he's watching down on us and he's smiling, but he stands for excellence to me. One thing that I learned from him that always will stand out, is he would always find some reason, no matter what, to make us run. We could win a game by 30. We could execute perfectly. Eye contact could be immaculate. And, you know, short of form, at some point in time, the next practice, we did something wrong, like our shoes weren't tied properly or something, and we were going to run Cavaliers and suicides and be out on that track for some reason. And as a coach, what I came to understand through experience is what he wanted from us is to never be satisfied, to always know that there was a place where we could grow, and that past success would just become a stepping stone to future success if we continue to work hard. So he never let us rest on our laurels. He never let us be satisfied with past success, and he always continued to push us to greatness. So that's one of the lessons that I always taken with me once I understood what he was doing, and I hope that I'm able to emulate and implement with my teams.
I also asked you about a memorable game you've been a part of. And this isn't a short list, but you gave me that 2011 2012 season where you're going up against the defending champion Windward in the playoffs, triple overtime, and the Cavaliers come out on top.
Yes, we did.
Let's
So,
take a trip down memory lane and tell me what still stands out to you about that game.
so let me give you a little backstory on that. So, back in the good old days, coaches would flock to the CIF office on bracket day. Um, so it was a great opportunity for people to find out who they played, to get the tournament brackets, to connect with other coaches, to see who played who, to see if you could get some film. And at that time, film wasn't as readily available. We were still trading DVDs, I mean CDs, no DVDs. I'm sorry, DVDs. Um, so backstory to that is in league that year, St. Bernard's and Serra split, and so we were both, I believe, 9-1, having beat each other, and so the league champion came down to a coin flip. St. Bernard's wins the coin flip, but when the brackets come out, we're ranked higher than St. Bernard's. And I looked at the brackets and I saw that we would be playing potentially, had we won and Windward won, we would be playing them in a semifinal game. I think we were the 4th seed. I think Berners might have been the 5th or the 6th that year. Um, and what I knew was that Berners had Imani Stafford, they had Kristen Simon, and they were just huge. And they were, of course, they had Jordan Canada, 9 D1 players on that team. And what I didn't want to happen was for us to have to play them at home. Us being the 4, we would see them in the semifinals if we made it, if they made it. And so I petitioned the CIF office to move us down because we lost the coin flip to St. Bernard. So they were the league champion, which meant they had to be above us. So we get pushed down. I forget what seed we are, maybe a 7 seed, maybe. But I knew that we were one of the best 2 teams in the playoffs. And so what ended up happening there was we both make it to the championship. We get to see them on a big court, which I thought our speed and quickness would have a better chance because their size would now have to run that big floor. And on a neutral floor, I thought we were as good as anybody in the country. So we get to the game, and we're playing Windward. At the time, I think they might have been number 1 or 2 in the nation. Phenomenal program. Once again, 9 D1 players on that team. And so I just remember the nerves. I just remember trying to push as much confidence into our young ladies as possible. Really have to give a lot of credit to my assistant coaches at the time, Coach Derek Gray, Coach Will Haley, whose daughter was on the team, Kayla, who made some tremendously big plays for us. But I remember thinking we had a chance to win when at the end of every major moment, we had the ball in our hands. At the end of the first overtime, ball's in our hand. Second overtime, ball in our hand. And of course, we won in the third overtime. But I just remember the grit, the belief, the confidence, once the ball went up, realizing we could play with the Jordan Canadas of the world and the Imani Staffords and the Emily Surhoffs and the Courtney Jacobs of the world. I just remember seeing our girls grow more and more confident through that game. Tremendously proud of the way that the girls attended to the game plan, how much we had grown to get to that point. And then another thing I remember is the physicality. I think the game really shifted for us when we were able to take a charge on Jordan Canada in the open court to give her fifth foul. And of course, that just gave us a humongous advantage at that time. And just to see how the girls rallied around each other was just the most memorable moment of my coaching career. And just to top that off, as we're leaving the arena, because the Alemany game before ours went double overtime, um, after the press conferences and all of that, we get on the bus, and Disneyland is having their fireworks go off. And I remember just saying to the girls that was for them, that even the people at Disneyland are commemorating our success and their accomplishment. And I just remember the joy and the tears of joy and the laughter and the love. So, yeah, definitely. Yes.
Your program competes consistently against Bishop Montgomery and other top programs in the area. But how would you describe the rivalry between Serra and Bishop Montgomery?
At this point, non existent. And what I mean by that is you got to be able to beat somebody for there to be a rivalry. And so I remember early on coming into the league and 35-point butt whoopings on a consistent basis, first 2 or 3 years. And then I remember building to a point where our freshman and sophomore group that had come in with us in 2007 were now seniors. And then we began to get some other kids from the area to come in and see the goodness of our program. And then we began to compete. Um, Still to this day, one of the greatest memories is the first time we beat Bishop Amat. I don't remember what year, but I remember that they just whooped us. It was always Bishop Amat, Bishop Montgomery going for the league championship, and then beating them, and then also beating Bishop Montgomery. And then we became the best team in league. And we were the ones to be hunted, and we were the ones to be sought out. Um, and then we would have just some great games. I remember Alexis Tucker making a shot at the buzzer and the referees coming in and waving it off, and then seeing the film and seeing that it actually had counted, So those types of moments, there were a lot of those moments. I think because of the um, vicinity of our schools, the locality of our schools, um, and the fact that there are some common recruiting schools or schools that we recruit from um, as a school in between, that it definitely makes for a great rivalry. Um, and then when you look at the greatness of their coaches and the established position and culture that they have in terms of basketball in the South Bay, and we were up on the uprise, I think that a clash was inevitable. I think it was only a matter of time as two objects began to rub against each other. They begin to become more and more similar. And so definitely I think those games help make us a better program. And I'm excited about being able to compete back at that level. Um, I do have a great deal of pride and joy, even within the rivalry, in seeing that they've had a lot of success as of recent. Because as a school and as a program specifically, they look similar to us. It's a place where you see young minority kids going and achieving and accomplishing. And to me, that means a lot coming out of this area. So even though we're rivals, when we're not playing, I wish them much success, a lot of respect for their coaches. My first year coaching at Serra. Actually, I forgot to mention this. I did coach boys at Serra JV 1 year. So I remember going to Bishop Montgomery for a boys game, and the girls were practicing. And uh, my first exposure to high school girls basketball was watching Noelle Quinn dunk a volleyball at the end of practice. And I thought to myself, oh my goodness, I never knew young ladies could be this good. Turns out she would become a high school All-American, McDonald All-American, college All-American, WNBA player, and a phenomenal coach. So to see her transitioning up the ladder was phenomenal as well. I mean, seeing her as a player and then coaching against her when she's a coach at Bishop definitely was a full circle moment for me. But just some good memories with that rivalry. Can't wait to get back to competing at that level and being able to give them a run for their money.
I went to Bishop Montgomery, graduated 2 years ahead of Noelle, and I remember her always being competing for a championship, whether it was basketball or volleyball. And she was an All American in two sports, and you don't see that done too often.
Right, right, right. A lot of young ladies need to know her story. And what I love about her even more is that she's so even keeled. She's so, mild mannered. She's so matter of fact about it. Um, she lives a life of greatness, and so she doesn't have to shout out her accolades. You know, so just her demeanor, just the way she carries herself is exemplary, and a lot of young ladies can use her as a role model for greatness. So yeah, agreed.
You began an AAU travel team for young
Yes.
ladies.
Yes.
How has the women's game grown since you began that travel team?
Well, my travel team was built out of a rec center, and the formation of that team came about due to a lack of female travel programs, but additionally, just trying to keep young ladies together uh, and taking them from co-ed leagues where they were the only girls on the team or one of two girls on the team, and trying to bring them together and just intensify their growth curve, intensify the training. So for me, it was a labor of love based upon what I had been given. So for me, going back to Coach Tiny in our AAU program when I played for the K&E Bulls, he never asked for a cent. We paid our tournament fees, never paid for practice, never paid for travel. Um, he did it out of his heart. So that was one of the great pay it forward moments of my life. Um, Seeing a crop of young people who were excited about the game, who didn't have an avenue to really continue, um, was what excited me. And so we took these local young ladies who eventually went to Marlboro, Crenshaw, Serra, Notre Dame Academy, Laces, uh, so on and so forth. We took these young ladies and we just started youth development. And of course, as you begin to practice and you begin to hone skills, it's important to have an outlet to exhibit those skills. Therefore, the AAU component came out in terms of the travel ball. And we had some great adventures. Most of the parents I still keep in contact with. And we're talking about 2003, 2004. And most of these people I still consider friends. Most of these young ladies are professionals with their own families, and we still keep in contact. I have four goddaughters who played for me, five actually. Um, and so it just became a family environment, a labor of love, um, giving back. And on top of that, it was the satisfaction of seeing these young ladies progress, get better. And then we went out and won some games. We stayed local. So I think the furthest we went was Arizona. And at that time, AAU wasn't a big nationwide phenomenon with the girls. It wasn't something where you were traveling to Wisconsin and Alabama, you know. So Las Vegas, local tournaments, Arizona was the furthest. Um, and it was just family time. It was just a great time to spend. Now, fast forwarding, we're looking at NIL deals in high school. We're looking at people coming from different states to play at certain high schools. People forming super teams. We're looking at the girls' game emulating in many ways the boys' game. So fees have gone up to exorbitant amounts. Travel is the name of the game. Um, Playing on certain teams with certain players is mandatory. A lack of loyalty, in my opinion, with people not being willing to wait and grow, but wanting to be placed on the top-notch team and get time, even though you haven't really paid your dues yet. So for me, it's it's become that. Uh, there was a program called GBL who was around when I started doing what I started doing. They're still around. Coach Sherry does a great job with young ladies. Um, but at that time in Los Angeles, inner city area, we were pretty much the only two programs that were in that inner city area. Now you have AAU programs every other corner. They're fighting for spots between as they say in the black community, churches and liquor stores. So that's how prevalent the AAU programs are. Um, they become money grabs in many instances, and which is kind of in the way that the boys programs have been going. So that's kind of where I see the difference. But I think we're now living in a culture and a society where loyalty is not really accentuated. It's about where I can get what I need immediately or what I want immediately with the least amount of conflict or pushback, which is really doing our kids a disservice.
I agree. This year's squad makes it to the sectional finals, falling to Tesoro. Give me some insight as to the journey this team took you, the fans, everybody else on.
So for us, first tournament every year is Redondo. Shout out to Marcelo, my guy over at Redondo. He's another veteran in this thing, and I consider a friend in the coaching ranks. Um, we went 1-3. We took some brutal losses to some teams that I thought we could play with. Um, but it's all about growth, right? It's all about the process. The seed has to be the seed until it becomes, you know, the root, till it becomes the stump, till it becomes the bush to the tree, whatever. So for us, it was a matter of the growing process. Our team is still very young. We graduate four, but only two players that actually played significant minutes for us. And so the lion's share of our program were sophomores last year. Um, so we're still a very young team. I think that we decided to step up the level of competition, which definitely gave us some growing pains. I think a pivotal moment for us was when we had a team meeting. And the girls let me know that they felt that I was letting them down as their coach because, in my position as the dean of students, I'm often not available to be at practice right after school. Um, and so, what they told me very plainly was, Coach, you're not holding up your end of the bargain. To which then I had to make some decisions. So I spoke to the other members of my administration and I asked if they could cover me in those early hours so that I could be at practice from 2:30 to 4:30, and they were able to accommodate that for me. And I think you saw a continuous growth in our team. I think playoff runs are all about peaking at the right time. So we were able to build some good habits. We took some injuries along the way, which kind of stymied our growth. Um, but we were able to kind of get right at the right time. And then the girls were able to lock in. And I really think as a program, one of our strengths has always been our ability as a coaching staff to really dissect programs, opponents, and to be able to really get our girls to lock in. With the immaturity that our young ladies displayed early, we saw that they really wanted to continue the season. We do vision boards at the beginning of every season, individual and team wide. And winning a CIF championship, winning a state championship were part of their vision boards across the board. So we were able to get to a CIF final. We ended up losing to Serra, very good team, well prepared, and a very physical game. And then we lost first round of state with our point guard and all CIF player becoming getting injured in the CIF final game, not being able to play. But I'm excited because to a person, the hunger and the vision and the goal has only been reaffirmed. The team coming back is dead set on trying to duplicate and even reach higher than this past year's accomplishments. And so to see that fire and that hunger means that that CIF loss was worth the game because we're able to now instill some character and some growth into the young ladies that will be returning.
Beautiful. Beautiful. That will wrap up the hard hitting questions of this episode. We are going to transfer into rapid fire.
Okay.
I've got 6 questions for you.
Okay.
Your answers, I will not argue. Your all time NBA starting 5.
My goodness. Wow. So as I've heard on so many of these things, what rules are we playing by? What
Your
era are
rules.
we playing in?
Your
Today?
rules.
My
Your
rules.
rules.
My rules. Okay. I am going with at the 1, Magic Johnson. At the 2/3, I'm going with Mike and Kobe. At the 4, I'm going with Bronny's father. I'm going with LeBron James. And at the 5, which is my toughest spot, I believe, so many great centers. You could go with Wilt, you could go with Kareem, you could go with Shaq, you could go with Hakeem. But in terms of my era of greatness and what I think is the greatest era of basketball, I am going to go with the most dominant player that I was able to watch with my own eyes, which would be Shaquille O'Neal.
Big Diesel.
The Big Diesel.
The best female basketball player you've ever seen play.
Personally, and we're talking about in person, not on film or not. I've been to many WNBA games. For me, Lisa Leslie was my person. I also think Maya Moore was just uncomparable in terms of her, diversity of skill set. But I am going to give the nod to high school Noelle Quinn. I mean, just the way she dominated the game, it was a woman amongst kids in the sandlot. She was taking, candy from babies. She was shaking and baking before I knew that women were shaking and baking on the basketball court. Just seeing her play, it opened up a whole different level of expectation to where the women's game could possibly go. I will give an honorable mention to Candace Parker as well, but high school Noelle Quinn was something to behold.
One NBA franchise has to go.
Uh, One NBA franchise has to go. Oh, I'm a Laker fan, so if we can get rid of Boston, that would be great. If we could get rid of Boston, that would just be phenomenal. I mean, in honor of the late, Jerry West, who couldn't beat Boston, I'm saying let's get rid of them Celtics. And funny enough, my daughter, who just started playing basketball, she's a freshman in high school, and she never played basketball, any sport, until this year. Her team has 6 players on it. She was a starting power forward, never having picked up a basketball. Didn't even think to tell her father she wanted to play because she didn't know I really coached. But uh, forgot my point with that. But um, I remember now, she's a Celtics fan. I don't know how that happened. She's a Celtics fan. Uh, she says she likes the team with the little leprechaun. That's her. That's her take.
All right,
So I gotta break her heart, and we got to get rid of the Celtics.
we got to get rid of them.
Yeah.
Your favorite basketball movie?
Favorite basketball movie is Coach Carter. Has to be the emotional ride that it takes you from Coach Hurt like moments with running 1,000 suicides and 1,500 push-ups by Friday, which by the way is a abuse.
Now
Although
it
as
is.
coaches, yeah, now it is.
Now it is.
Um, to just the emotional connection, to also teaching and helping to build and rebuff the character as a way of then having success on the court, I think is every coach's dream. We all want to be transformative. And for me, that's my favorite basketball movie.
My biggest point in that one is you are student athletes. You cannot have an athlete without the student.
Yes.
That's one of my favorite basketball movies as well. A movie is being made about your life. Who plays you?
We're going to have to get Michael B. Jordan to be young me. Uh, I think Morris Chestnut could probably do the Middle Ages, and then Denzel is going to have to be me now. He's going to have to grow out the gray, and he's going to have to, he's going to have to represent me. I think those are 3 phenomenal actors who have definitely set the tone in their different, periods. Um, but yeah, I think all of them represent greatness and black acting. And so, yeah, I mean, it has to be the greatest to represent me in a movie. So that's who it would be. Absolutely.
There we go. Your go-to South Bay eatery and your favorite dish there.
Eat at Rudy's. And whatever's on the little rolling whiteboard menu that they have, typically is going to be the hobo omelet for me. I know every once in a while they had that omelet with the gravy on it. And when I'm feeling celebratory, I get that. My workouts have been going well. We won a big game or something like that. But I love it there because the hospitality is phenomenal. It's like an episode of Cheers. They always know your name when you walk in. Then you have the inside or the outside. For some reason, the weather in Torrance is always sunny on a Sunday when you go there. And there's always great people eating alongside of you. So, and then the food is phenomenal. So, yeah, eat at Rudy's.
There we go. Coach, I appreciate your time. You have been nothing short of spectacular. I look forward to talking to you more in the future. Thank
Let's
you.
do it. Nick, have a good one. I appreciate your time. Appreciate you considering me.
Thanks for tuning in. Be sure to follow along and share these episodes with your family and friends. Until the next episode, South Bay Sports Guy signing off. Have a great day.